What's up, everybody? My name is Vincent. Welcome to Cryptolution, where we talk about everything under the moon in the crypto universe. In today's video, we're going to have an amazing interview with none other than Matthew, head of product marketing over at OKX and OKX Wallet. To introduce this amazing chat, Matthew, how are you today? Thank you so much for being on our show. Are you excited?
Vincent, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm always excited. We're in a great market, a great space, and I'm having fun. And I'm looking forward to chatting.
Absolutely. Yes, I mean, everybody in the audience is wanting to hear more about OKX and what the OKX Web3 wallet is doing. We do know that there are some integrations that I think is really exciting for the Bitcoin ecosystem. But before we even head into that ballpark, I want to get to know you a little bit more because I have seen your presence on Twitter quite a bit, especially within the Bitcoin space. But can you just describe your role and what you play into your role as the head of product marketing over at OKX and also the Web3 wallet?
Sure. Yeah. Myself, I've been in the crypto space for quite a while. I bought my first Bitcoin 2013, and since then been hooked, orange pilled quite badly, enough to just continue to change the path of my life. Over the years, I've worked in various projects and ended up mostly on the centralized side, working in the exchange space. I joined OKX just 2.5 years ago, coming from crypto.com, and ended up building out a really robust and fantastic product marketing function and team within OKX. And our role really is product storytellers. Our goal and
Mm.
our function within OKX is to help the world understand and know our products better. Crypto and blockchain tech generally is not the easiest thing to quite understand at times, especially as new products are introduced. There's always technology that's evolving. And for a lot of the crypto native, crypto degens who are online perpetually and don't sleep and follow the space, that learning curve we forget at times is quite steep. And our goal at OKX, we have 50 million plus users globally on our exchange. Our wallet is fastly growing and becoming one of the most popular wallets in the world. And our goal is to actually grow and expand the amount of the group of people who have access to crypto and to this space. And so my role plays a pivotal part in telling that story, getting more people onboarded. So we help launch our new products. We write and introduce our blogs and our product storytelling, whether that's on video, whether that's long form. And really ensure people understand how to use our products and what they're for. Our goal ultimately, again, is just to help grow and introduce more people to this space. And I enjoy tremendously that work, and my team is awesome. So shout out to my team. But that's really what we do.
It's actually kind of amazing is that since you've been with this team for over 2 years, I've actually noticed the significant growth of OKX over those 2 years. I think ever since like the pandemic, all of a sudden OKX started capitalizing on the market share, competing against all these other established OG exchanges. And I was actually quite surprised. And even seeing OKX's presence in Formula One, say, for instance, was actually also pretty cool. Like, wow, OKX is really dominating the space of not just like the Web3 world, but also the in real life world as well. And I'm actually quite curious because one of the things that you mentioned was like kind of onboarding people that are either crypto native, but also people that aren't crypto savvy. Some people that are very new that just want to download their app for the very first time and buy their very first Bitcoin or whatever. So just kind of curious, like what has led OKX as a tier one to become like globally adopted and also had garnered so much interest over that time? What have you seen increase in terms of why people choose your platform compared to other established OG centralized exchanges, in your personal opinion?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and a fair one. You mentioned the brand, and I think it all, the sort of catalyst for a lot of the growth and discovery of OKX as we are today is that we underwent a rebranding. I guess we're going close to 3 years ago now, right prior to when I joined, and that's actually one of the reasons I joined was as I guess an OG. I've been very familiar with the previous presence of OKEX and rebranding to OKX. I thought was a signal to me as a marketer that the company was serious about marketing and understanding that telling the story and being seen and being approachable is a huge piece of the puzzle here. And so
Mhm.
since that rebranding, we really put the pedal to the metal, for no pun intended, on the partnerships and branding elements as a start, right? To understand and know us as a company and as a brand. The thing I know and I'm proud of is that our products are top notch, are world class. We consider ourselves an engineering first company, and a design first company. And
Mhm.
so it wasn't so much of a product issue, it was more of a, hey, we need people to know us and understand who we are, what we stand for. And so the brand came first. And I think over the past 2 years, year plus, we've prior 2 years, we've done a fantastic job, and a huge amount of credit goes to our CMO Hyder, who spearheaded and champions the OKX brand, and really created that, and built that from
Mhm.
the ground.
Mhm.
And so that brand presence allowed us to start to have a name to build on. And the brand partnerships are fantastic brand partners in McLaren, Man City, Tribeca. Um,
Mhm.
these partners are fantastic to work with, and help really introduce us in a new way to a new audience, but also validate us to our existing audience that, we're here, we're
Mhm.
working with really quite established players in the brand space. And that gave us a really strong foundation. But the next bit, and that's my role,
Mhm.
is the brand is enough to say, what is that? Who is that? Let me take a look. The next is, how can your business, your services, your products work for me? How can I use them? And that's where the product marketing team and function has really spent the last 2 years building up our capabilities to start to show our products in a better way. I think a good testament to that is our wallet, and the Web3 wallet, which we started 2.5 years ago, and now it's become quite popular. But the functionality that what we offer is, and we could talk about that, is fantastic. But on top of that, I think we've done a much better job of trying to tell the story of a multi-chain wallet that
Mhm.
allows you to swap, to bridge, to trade on any chain.
Mhm.
And for us being a centralized exchange, we also really understand, one business being centralized exchange, we really understand the future of this space, which is on chain, and we invested in that heavily with our wallet and our wallet business. And so we're a big proponent of self custody. So I think telling that self custody story, empowering more users who are discovering our brand, discovering our products, from the exchange side, both as we go and get regulated and licensed in many jurisdictions,
Mhm.
onboarding more folks into this space, and then allowing them to seamlessly choose self custody. And that journey, I think, is what's really helped drive the growth. And ultimately, we think we can win, and believe that the market is deciding that they want a platform that is safe, compliant, and trustworthy on the centralized exchange side, and then easily be able to have every function and ability they need on the on-chain side to choose self-custody. And that's what
Mhm.
we bring with our wallet. So we think we're sort of building a super app, for lack of a better word, of crypto, where you can choose an exchange and choose a wallet. And our brand and our marketing are sort of the tip of the spear to allow people to sort of see that.
Amazing. That's amazing. That's really great information. In fact, when the wallet did come out and the story, the narrative of having self-custody was part of that OKX Web3 wallet story, I was actually quite fascinated because, before there were decentralized wallets and also multi-chain wallet applications, we only had centralized exchanges. And one of the biggest fears I think most consumers had was not your keys, not your crypto. And so
Mm.
people were concerned that they had no control over their funds and regulation wasn't really clear. But now things have actually kind of changed as of recently, especially given the US presidential election that happened recently and how that's changing the landscape. And this is actually kind of a personal question for you, in your own personal opinion. Do you feel like the future is veering off into the whole self-custody, own your own crypto type of story? Or do you think it's kind of half and half? Like you just have to cater to both audiences. What are your thoughts on that in the future of DeFi and I'm sorry, not DeFi, but of self-custody in the next maybe four
Sure.
years?
Yeah, I think, I have my own personal uh, belief in the power of decentralization, and the uh, the freedom that comes with self custody, and the power as well that comes with that. I'm a big proponent of self custody, private, uh, owning your private keys, and sort of manifesting your own destiny when it comes to the assets that you own. And I think Bitcoin is the champion of that concept. But I think what we're seeing now, and to answer your question in short, it's definitely a mix of both, right? As a marketer, you realize there's lots of different audiences, and who you are talking to depends on what you're offering. And for us, we know that there are a lot of folks out there who the concept of self-custody, at least at the stage that they're at in the evolution of their journey within crypto and owning these assets, is potentially a bridge too far at the moment, right? So creating
Mhm.
really simple and easy onboarding and safe and secure markets and exchange for newbies and others to come into is something I think is absolutely needed and will not go anywhere, right? And there's a fact of the matter that many folks who don't understand the tech and just understand maybe the asset class to some degree don't value that self custody,
Mhm.
uh, not yet at least. And so for us, on the exchange side, we have the focus. We just introduced and we'll be introducing a lot more of our reintroducing. They exist. Part of my job is like we have so many great things I have to market, right? I have to just bring them to market. We have
Mhm.
so many great pieces in place of that protect our users on the exchange side. We're going to be introducing a large campaign going forward to introduce how we protect our users. But one of the main elements there is our monthly proof of reserves, which, if I'm not wrong, we've done more than 26 months of consecutive proof of reserves. I think it's actually 27
Mhm.
consecutive monthly proof of reserves reporting. And
Mhm.
so when you're on the exchange, you can feel safe and knowing that the funds you put there are backed one to one on
Mhm.
OKX. Um, and then I think the other cohort is folks who really do understand the technology, understand the value of decentralization and self custody, and they'll utilize a self custody wallet. And that's where we want to offer an option, but not only just an option. We want to give a set of features and tools for on-chain users within
Mhm.
our wallet to take advantage of that self custody in the best way they can, also in a secure and safe way. So within our wallet, for those who choose self custody, and I advocate very much for self custody. I do believe, and we see that with wallet growth. That more and more folks are choosing to go on chain first, and choosing self custody and learning about that. And then, of course, there are pitfalls when it comes to the self custody, where interacting with a malicious contract or potentially
Mm.
falling for a scam. And of course, the classic, tokens, which are honeypots or rugs or things along those lines, right?
Mhm.
You sort of, all the power comes to you as a decision maker and owner of your assets, but also the responsibility to ensure that those transactions and the way you use those assets are in the right way.
Mhm.
So we've built a lot of safeguards into our wallet, which is, we scan for any malicious links or phishing links that are reported, and we notify our users before they connect their wallet. Um, we
Mhm.
also have a audit tool within our token screener, which shows, is this token, new? Is it, rug potential honeypot? All those type of notifications, or those that information is available to our users as well within the wallet. So I think, to underpin that statement, the idea is that both are going to be, I think, a place for both
Mhm.
within the space. Absolutely, you're going to see users who don't value self custody as an initial need, and will choose to have a centralized exchange be the custodian. And that's fine for that platform. And those platforms like ours need to continue to improve on protections. And then for those who choose self custody, they're going to want more and more features and more protection within a wallet ecosystem and a wallet environment. So that's what we choose as well. So I think on our
Yeah.
side, you'll sort of see OKX. We really cover a lot of ground, but I think we go deep enough that it's quite significant.
Yeah. I mean, just personally for myself, just like downloading the Web3 wallet and just using it the other day was completely user friendly for me. And I sometimes come in with this perspective of, I don't know anything about crypto. How does this UX UI feel to me?
Mhm.
And it was nice to, like, for instance, I wanted to understand the Bitcoin ecosystem by just buying my first rune. And runes and ordinals is something that has been recently, I think, integrated within the OKX Web3 wallet, which is my next topic. And it was actually quite fun. I loved it. I recorded it, I posted a video about it, and it was just something that I was so proud to share because is those types of things that, behind the scenes is a lot of work to put together, but we don't realize as the user how much work is put into it. So
Sure.
kudos to you guys. It's absolutely amazing. So talking about the Bitcoin ecosystem, because our audience is like a huge like Ordinal, Runes, BRC20 group of people. And they recently have seen that OKX Web3 Wallet has been one of the top platforms to buy runes and ordinals.
Yep.
And I'm actually kind of wondering, like, what excites you about this growth of Bitcoin DeFi this year?
Mm,
Because this is kind of fairly new. We have Ordinals for the past 2 years, Runes for the past year, roughly, give or take. And I'm just actually kind of wondering, like, what excites you about this Bitcoin DeFi space in this coming year? And,
yeah.
how does OKX plan to, support it as much as possible uh, in 2025?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. The history Bitcoin, yeah, the history of OKX is a history sort of tied to Bitcoin. The
Mm,
exchange started as a Bitcoin exchange, um, and Bitcoin's still at the core of our belief around decentralization. We've invested heavily within the Bitcoin ecosystem, even prior to a lot of the work that Casey and Domo did to sort of drive Bitcoin innovation in this sort of new renaissance. Within the exchange, we were the first major exchange to integrate Lightning, and we still offer Lightning support, and we're quite close with that Lightning Labs and the team following their innovations. So we believe in a faster, cheaper way to actually interact on L1. Um, and then with the innovation on Ordinals, we supported the Ordinals protocol. I believe supported BRC 21st. I think this was Jan 2022, and then
mhm.
Ordinal March.
Okay.
Um, and and so quite early adopter there. We saw a great boom within BRC 20 and
Mhm,
the growth of sort of uh, tokens on Bitcoin.
mhm,
Sort of emergence of Bitcoin DeFi, the early stage in that regard, and supported that quite heavily. Our marketplace for BRC 20 was the top in the world for a number of months, and uh, we saw there's real interest. And I think as a company, believing in Bitcoin, we want to see that ecosystem grow. We want to see more and more folks be exposed to L1, Bitcoin L1, and potentially other assets coming on L1, or potentially even what we call L2s or scaling solutions.
mhm,
Uh, and then we've continued to invest. So we launched our inscriptions marketplace, which was Ordinals. We even support, atomicals. We integrated Fractal Bitcoin.
mhm,
And so all of these elements we want to ensure that we cover and support the Bitcoin ecosystem, not only because of the as a large player in the space, but because we do believe that supporting this innovation and allowing users to interact and discover these new assets and these new elements of innovation will drive more interest in this space. And so yeah, if you go into it's great feedback to hear. I'm sure our product team would be very happy. I spend a lot of time with our product team going through the nuances and of the
mhm,
user experience when it comes to Bitcoin, because there are many. And
mhm,
I'm very happy to hear. I think we are at a very good place within the development and the user experience on our app and our Web3 product side, where
mhm,
you can, download the wallet, toss your Bitcoin in there, and from there you have the ability to discover and buy, trade all of the sort of major Bitcoin assets.
mhm.
And it's cool that you did it yourself, didn't have any major hiccups,
None.
and
Yeah, it was perfect.
yeah, and I think that's what we want. We don't want people to really focus so much on the tech and the user experience. It should be just, hey, I want to get something done. I want to buy runes. I want to get an ordinal PFP, and it's simple. Use the wallet, fund your Bitcoin, and the marketplace. You can find that within our marketplace. You can trade, and all of that becomes seamless. So I
Mhm.
think that's a sort of an answer to part of the question. The next part
Yeah.
around Bitcoin DeFi, Hmm. I'm quite bullish on the future of Bitcoin innovation and Bitcoin DeFi. I think the question now in on most people's minds, mine included, is when and the timeline for that sort of adoption or
Mhm,
critical mass around liquidity coming to Bitcoin, not from just as an asset being held there, but within the Bitcoin ecosystem.
mhm,
A big fan of Liquidium. I think and the team there, and offering loans and creating a sort of early foundation for a, uh, a loans market on Bitcoin. Fantastic. I've used Liquidium many times. Um,
mhm,
and then the guys over at Arch and building out new capabilities on the decks, and guys at Saturn and Hex and the team there building
mhm,
out decks and trading ability or trading functionality, giving users the ability to trade more seamlessly, because I think the trading experience, the user experience, is still not up to the standard that we need when you compare, folks who are coming from other ecosystems like EVM or Solana, where the infrastructure is just quite much more robust and has a longer time to mature and develop. So the hurdle and the user experience, I think, is still a major sort of blocker for
Mhm.
growth. I think that's the point where I focus and say who's creating faster, better user experiences. And I don't know where it's going to come from. We also integrate, and support stacks as an ecosystem. I
Mhm.
know Lightning team is introducing and working to continue to grow Lightning use cases and adoption. Um, and of course, there are a lot of others who are building, scaling solutions like Fractal and others. So I'm quite bullish on where we are at the sort of divergent stage where there's a lot of different things being built and being introduced.
Mhm.
But I don't we've seen yet that real point, inflection point where it's clear the user experience, the liquidity, all of those things have come together to allow for a scaling or a growth
Mhm.
phase of Bitcoin DeFi. So for me, I've been in the space a long time. It feels very familiar in certain ways that, we're just in a pattern of waiting for innovation to user experience to catch up with innovation.
Mhm.
But I do believe, with Bitcoin,
Mhm.
the timeline is long, and that's fine.
Mhm.
And eventually, and we will see, a robust and thriving sort of DeFi ecosystem within Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's actually a really interesting point. And when you talk about the hurdles and the obstacles, I think this is completely normal. If you consider like what Ethereum and Solana had to do to get to their roadmap of before they even got to, their AMM swaps, they had to have the developers come in to build these infrastructures in place. Obviously, it's a little bit more of a hurdle with Bitcoin, considering that it's the most secure and most decentralized blockchain out there. But given that, there is something that's really hard, which is that, with BRC20 tokens coming out for the very first time, people thought that it wasn't EVM compatible, that the UTX model was kind of, wasn't built in a way that could give it growth, right? And I think that there's some news around BRC 2.0 coming out as well. But this fungible token market, right? Like Rune's protocol is coming out from Casey Rodimer, and now we're seeing this whole new crowd coming in from the Rune's ecosystem. And so, what are your thoughts on the fungible token market? Is this a time where we are just speculating? Is it early where it's really risky to get involved in these things? Or do you feel like, no, this is kind of like the early days of Pepe on Ethereum or Shiba
Mhm.
Inu or whatever? What is your perspective on the current cycle of fungible tokens on Bitcoin right now compared to other chains, say, for instance, in their life cycle?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I have probably a simple answer to start, which is, you
Hmm.
know, the traders, the market follows liquidity, right? And where we're at now is within the Bitcoin ecosystem in regard to fungible tokens and trading is the liquidity is not choosing these markets. And because of that, I think we see a lack of growth or obviously volume associated with trading within these markets. Uh, we look at where other ecosystems are, EVM and Ethereum previously in the bull run 2020, well, DeFi summer 2020, 2021, we saw token trading and liquidity flow there. And then
Hmm.
we've now seen Solana really take and to some degree Binance BSC. Not to actually to a serious degree. I think they're the second largest liquidity ecosystem now.
Hmm.
Uh, we see Solana. I just checked. I think they were doing 9 billion in daily trading volume,
Hmm.
which is significant, the highest it's ever been on chain. So we see Solana and the ecosystem there really thriving when it comes to token trading. When it
Hmm.
comes to Bitcoin and the Bitcoin token standards and what we're offering, I do think it is early. The thing I will go back to and the part that I think is critical to understand, in my view, is the user experience. And
Hmm.
I give Solana and the team a ton of credit, and there's some debate around the decentralized nature of Solana, and I know a lot of Bitcoin uh,
Hmm.
opponents have their own thoughts on the level of decentralization
Hmm.
versus centralization and the trade-offs between user experience, usability, and that layer of trust. but it seems the market is choosing, for themselves, which is where they want to spend their time, their money, and keep their liquidity. I
Hmm.
think on Bitcoin, that piece that I know for a fact there is when you say, Bitcoin tokens and Bitcoin trading, people really perk up. And if you go on the streets and you ask, 100 people, 10 people, name a couple of tokens, they'll name Bitcoin and they'll have a harder time naming others.
Right.
So, global recognition and brand value in Bitcoin is by far the highest. But I will go back to, when people do try to come in and buy runes or, get into BRC20, the user experience is not a familiar one compared to, and the hurdles to get into to buy and enter into a market is still significant. And so I think it is, again, going back to this idea of the same element of Bitcoin DeFi and the growth there. I think it's directly tied to, the growth and the growth curve and adoption of uh, token trading and liquidity within token markets on Bitcoin, where user experience needs to improve and become something as smooth and as simple as what users are used to, maybe on other chains like a Solana, which already improved from what was on EVM, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And give users the ability to quickly and easily, onboard, choose a token, trade a token without having to really jump through too many hoops. And I do have
Mm.
reservations. Hey, is at what level of growth do we see? Given the nature of decentralized of Bitcoin, being the most decentralized network, and there are elements there on speed and transaction size, or I would say even cost, that are built in for a reason in Bitcoin, right? And secure the network in a way we've seen no other network be secured. And so you have this sort of, I think, a potential trade-off or some level of choosing between, hey, is this network built for its intended purpose on to some degree on scale on security and decentralization versus other networks which don't value that but value speed, transactions and usability, right?
Mm.
So I think it's a long way to say long answer, just to say I think it's early. If the user experience can improve, we will see liquidity flow. I do believe that,
Mm.
but it is I think there's potentially a ceiling on the amount of user experience improvements that can be made given the nature of Bitcoin L1. I am a
Mhm.
proponent of scaling solutions. I do think there are probably alternative options.
Mhm.
So ETH and EVM introduce Ethereum introduce layer twos that have seen some strong success. I'm a big fan of Arbitrum, and I love what they do.
Mhm.
So the L2 the possibility I think can fix and improve that user experience. But again,
Mhm.
I think we're still early. Your question about risk, I think anytime put an asset into a market or deploy capital into a market, you expose yourself to risk.
Mhm.
It's one of those things that each person, each trader, each investor, each proponent of the space who chooses to put their assets here has to choose for themselves. But my view is always just understand those risks, trade responsibly, and if you're looking at an ecosystem early, sure, the risk reward can be quite high, but the risk and reward can be both quite high. So you have to recognize that.
Mhm.
And for me, and then personally, yeah, I'm heavily heavily deployed and invested in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I don't I have I have my own risk appetite, and I love what's happening in this. But I do think there is absolutely a need to understand that and know where we are in the space before you go in.
Yeah, that was a really good, thorough response because I think it's just really helpful for people who know nothing about the Bitcoin ecosystem, the emerging ecosystem, to know what you just said. I mean, just thinking about Solana, say for instance, their market cap on their blockchain is around 115 million, or yeah, 115 billion last time I checked. And you said that they had some record trading volume around 9 billion, which is staggering. And I think what's attracting both you, myself, many other people into this ecosystem of Bitcoin, which I'm also heavily involved in as well in terms of like investments and whatever, is our access to something that we never really talk about, but should be addressed, is Bitcoin's market share. It's $2 trillion, right? Like that's one of the most attractive things, I think, other than it being the most secure and just decentralized blockchain out there. And so it gets people really excited, even on the L1, to explore assets such as Ordinals, runes, BRC20 tokens. Yeah, there's a little bit of that user friction experience, but it's allowed people to feel. I've seen this like sentiment in the air where it's like these long-term conviction holders that think kind of like Bitcoin maxis in a way, where they buy, they hodl, they hold through the storms with the price going up and down, and they just go through it. And so I'm seeing that play out as right now. And that actually goes to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is, I think one of the things that both BRC20 people and even especially the runes culture,
Yep.
they feel that the best way for there to be less friction is when are we going to see more support for our fungible tokens for the customers that don't really care about self-custody, but in fact, we want to have these offerings to people that have an account with a centralized exchange. What do you foresee the future of runes, maybe even BRC20 tokens with OKX on their centralized exchange offering to their customers? Because that is, like you said, 50 million people that are signed up, 50 million plus people around the globe signed up to use the centralized exchange compared to, I don't know what the numbers are for your Web3 wallet, but I'm guessing there's a lot more with the centralized exchange since that's a little bit more predominant. Where do you see the future of, runes and BRC20 tokens being offered on a centralized exchange, if that's something that you can somewhat share an opinion about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the simple answer is what we aim to offer, users trading markets that are robust, that we believe the tokens are strong enough, have large enough communities to support. And we do have a very clear sort of framework that we think through when it comes to evaluating tokens. I can't speak to that framework, and I'm not part of the listing process specifically. But I do think, given my perspective and view, there, within this space, BRC20 and runes, there's sort of a chicken and egg sort of problem where, if we talk about, a centralized exchange, our goal is to, ensure that there's access to robust markets for users for traders to have access to. And the current state of, say, tokens on runes is the liquidity is just not great enough there
Mm-hmm.
for us to exchange to justify listing and putting a token up
Mm-hmm.
because the trading interest isn't there. So we look on chain, and the beauty of looking with on chain data is to see a number of traders, trading frequency, liquidity, and we compare that across a lot of different tokens, different ecosystems, and say which is the most popular, which has the highest trading activity, which has the most liquidity, largest community. All these elements are considered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what this ecosystem and Bitcoin, and I'm also part of this ecosystem. I understand from my perspective that it does need to mature, and that would have to be on chain organically to
Mm-hmm.
get to a point where exchanges look at it from a business perspective and say, hey, this looks like a good market for us to offer our users. And I think that's the hard part to sort of understand and get sort of aware of as a holder within this space is, you need to see that growth. And again, it goes back to your question of choosing an ecosystem, choosing when to deploy and hold and whatnot, is there is a point of momentum and inflection where you can see adoption. And I do think exchanges play a critical role in, and that's why I've chosen to spend a lot of my career within the exchange space
Mm-hmm.
as the sort of gateway and the place to onboard more folks to this space. But they have to be onboarded and brought into markets that not only are in demand, but also have liquidity and the sort of size that warrants an exchange to offer. So I
Mm-hmm.
think summarize, and this is what I tell a lot of my friends and folks in this space is, there's a growth level that the ecosystem needs to get to compared to other ecosystems, where
Mm-hmm.
then would okay, it's undeniable that needs to be supported in a more centralized manner. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's the long and short of it. I uh,
Mm-hmm.
I do understand a lot of the perspective within the ecosystem on hey, we have a UX problem, exchanges fix that, but it's a chicken and the egg sort of situation again, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Problem leads to lack of liquidity. Lack of liquidity leads to lack of trading volume, and then
Yeah,
exchanges. I could choose to list and bring on something else that will bring more volume, more liquidity. And so it
right.
is a tricky situation, I would say.
Yeah, it's almost like a follow the money type of thing. And if you build it, they will come type of thing. And I feel that eventually at some point or another, whenever this happens, It's eventually going to happen. We just got to wait until it does happen, which is that
Mhm.
market share of $2 trillion happening into any of these assets on Bitcoin, especially the fungible tokens. And I feel like it's going to happen probably with ordinals. Say, for instance, like we just had a recent NFT bull run on Ethereum, which was actually kind of shocking. Like there was a period where NFTs on Ethereum were kind of like
Yeah.
quiet and we were just kind of sitting on the sidelines, not thinking about it. All of a sudden, even though Bitcoin's price jumped from like 30,000 to $100,000. Ethereum's price stayed around like 3,400 to even go up above 5,000. Yet, with that said, we just saw an Ethereum bull run for NFTs. So, curious in your perspective, are we possibly at like this very boring phase of ordinals, or do you feel like this is the time where people should look into the communities that they want to join before there could potentially be a Bitcoin ordinals bull run? I mean, could we follow the same road as the NFT bull run on Ethereum and maybe soon Solana?
Yeah, I think I have my own I go back to the market. I have my own opinions, and I always look at the market to check if my views are aligned with the market's choosing. And we have seen, recently an increase in some of the interest on Ethereum NFTs. I saw I had some OpenSea notifications for the first time in 2, 3 years on some open bids and or some NFTs I had listed and some being offers coming in. I was quite surprised. Uh, so that was fun. I did actually sell some Ethereum NFTs, which is pretty wild
Amazing.
after a few years. So of course there is this sort of ebb and flow. Liquidity markets move in cycles. I would say that within the ordinal space, we haven't really seen any significant. We have seen an early ordinals run, and I think that's really what created the foundation and a lot of the top collections. I'm a big proponent of ordinal maxi biz. I think
Hmm.
Udi's doing with Quantum Cats, Taproot, Wizards. It's really fun. There are great collections out there overall.
Hmm.
Pizza Ninjas, shout out to Trevor and the team there.
Hmm.
Um, I think what we've seen on Ordinals is sort of the early formation of some liquidity flowing in, some being locked and seeing that in these collections and within holders, and also forming these the culture and communities within Ordinals. And that's really what drives, I think this inherent or intrinsic value in holding an NFT as a piece of access to a community or being part of. And so to answer your question on is this the time? I can't say, Ordinals bull run super hard to time, especially I'm really bad with NFTs, to be honest. I just like JPEGs. I just collect the pictures.
Hmm.
So when it comes to liquidity and trading, I'm not the best person to speak to. But I do believe, we've seen the formation of fantastic communities and culture within Ordinals. I really do value the people I meet and the community that I'm a part of there. And so, if you look at the market and where it's at with, prices for these Ordinals being on the lower side compared to and historically, then it is potentially a good time to consider, hey, I'm thinking of joining a community. This is a time where, it might be a good entry. With that said,
Hmm.
upside is always there, but we tend to find that, there are two types of more than, but typically two groups of sort of NFT market participants. There's the traders who are flipping and really trading and understand, the dynamics of that market. And then there's the collectors and those collectors. And I put, a lot of general community members as collectors, even though they don't know they're collectors because they don't
Hmm.
sell. Uh, as collectors who come in and value the art and or the what the collection stands for, what the founder or the team is building. And so yeah, I think, compared to any other ecosystem, I found that the Ordinals sort of NFT, for lack of a better term, community is probably the most fun and fun to be around. And I actually really value that. I'm a part of many communities. I find myself spending more time within Ordinals than anywhere else. So
Mm.
is now the time? Of course, the vibes are always good. So, any time is a good time to get into Ordinals, I think.
Mm. I love that. Yeah, I fell in love. I came from the Solana and Ethereum world, and I absolutely have just been hooked with everybody I've just been meeting. It's in a way kind of a small community, but not that small. When I say small, it's small compared to like Ethereum communities and Solana communities. But everybody that I've spoken to, it's just they want the space to grow, and it's almost like a fresh new start. And that excitement of being built on Bitcoin, it's just something that we've never seen before, other than Bitcoin being a store of value. And so, kind of coming to a close, I have last two questions. And the second to the last question is, what are some of the like things in the Bitcoin ecosystem that you would, I guess I'm not trying to say that this is financial advice, but more like what would you recommend people who don't know anything about this emerging Bitcoin ecosystem? What should they look out for in case they're like wanting to dabble in a few things? Should they, if they love art, should they dabble in ordinals? Or if they like to speculate on tokens, should they look towards, say, Dog to the Moon or say Ordi on BRC20s? Or is it like stacks, layer twos, or maybe other different DeFi ecosystems are emerging out of Bitcoin? I mean, what is something that you would give in terms of advice or thoughts or opinions on what people should look out for when they're going on the hunt for these different type of native assets on Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I always think from my perspective, what's gotten me into this space is a healthy dose of curiosity. And the thing I tell most people I onboard, and from family, friends, and of course within my scope of work, is we really believe in trying to understand the sort of first principles or fundamentals of the technology and the space, and then be curious to go deeper and see where the innovation is coming from, and learn about that. And so for me, my advice is always just to dive in and take a sort of a taste or a dip into each sort of area and take a look, not necessarily needing to deploy capital, right? That's maybe the last thing to consider.
Mm,
It's more around learning and reading and understanding what's happening there, within each of these spaces. If you learn about stacks and what money even the team's built, like, okay, cool, like, maybe go to a stacks meetup or go join the Discord and
mhm.
ask some questions. If you're looking at something like Ordinals communities, you can always, I think a lot of them, you could join their Discord, you could check on Twitter, follow their Twitter, see what's happening there. And then of course when it comes to, getting into the actual community, or potentially deploying capital, you need the infrastructure like a wallet. So finding the right wallet, understanding how Bitcoin transactions work, right?
Mhm.
And the understanding the mempool and block sizes and time and all these things, right? Like just playing around is the way to start. And then from there, you'll find what excites you most or you understand most. And I always advocate for, what you understand most is something you'll have, the strongest sort of outlook in, and best outlook in. So, find that and sort of, start there. So between, I think the short answer would be there are all these different options now on Bitcoin to explore. It's not just, boring Bitcoin that sits in your wallet. You can now, explore a lot of different ways to use that Bitcoin. And I think, for folks coming into this space and just starting to explore, there's plenty of options. So be
Mm,
curious, start with learning, understanding, and then you
mhm.
can start to transact and interact and see if one of these ecosystems or assets or offerings is a good fit for you.
That's a great response. And yeah, a great reminder for everybody tuning in is do your research before you end up just spilling all your capital into random things. That's too much speculation. Invest safely. I think that's ultimately the message that I'm taking away from this. And to kind of close it off, and I really appreciate your time, just educating our audience and everybody across the world who are just tuning in, just understanding what OKX and OKX Web3 Wallet is doing. Can you just help educate people on, how they can sign up for an OKX account on the exchange, what regions of the world it's available in, and also the alternative to download their OKX Web3 wallet? How can they do
Mhm.
that? And what assets will they have assets, or I'm sorry, which assets do they have access to with the Web3
Sure.
wallet?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I appreciate the setup. Yeah. No, for our OKX exchange, we do offer our exchange services in many different jurisdictions. We have just recently gotten pre-approval, the first exchange to receive pre-approval for Mika in Europe. So we'll be expanding to Europe in the coming months.
Amazing.
Very, very excited about that. I'll be spending a lot of time in Europe this year, which sounds great to me.
Yeah.
And supporting our team, who's really growing and expanding, planning to expand within Europe, and so that's really really exciting. We've gotten our license in Singapore, Dubai, Brazil, and a number of other jurisdictions. So
Hmm.
within these regions, you have access to OKX and can onboard and access our exchange through banking services and all the strong trading platform that we offer. So that's where I would start. And you can always sign up for a global OKX exchange account if it's available within your region as well, where we have access to 300 plus trading pairs on spot, and I think 200 plus on futures. So great
Hmm.
markets there. Liquidity is slowing, and it's a good time to access and join OKX. I'm a big proponent of our trading bots and our smart trading
Hmm.
tool.
Hmm.
I don't have enough time in the day to manage a lot of my positions, and so I actually really leverage our trading bots, which are I think
Mm.
best. So those are available as well, and I think a great place to start learning how to either DCA and buy a recurring buy into an asset. Buying the dip is great, but DCAing is better. So you get
Hmm.
an average entry. So all those tools are available to you there. And then on the Web3 wallet, we offer this globally as an offer for our self custody. And our Web3 wallet, we support over 100 different chains, from all of the major EVM chains, Bitcoin, as we've talked about. We also are fastly growing as a preferred wallet within the Solana ecosystem, and offer a lot of Solana trading and tools and options built in on chain. We just released Solana limit orders as well. So, you have really great trading tools that exist within the OKX wallet. And of course, ultimately, choosing the wallet means choosing self-custody, giving you full access and control of your assets. And I think that's really where we want to see a lot of folks end up, And again,
Hmm.
for us, we're building towards an on-chain future. We believe we're part of the on-chain generation. And it's us and within our community and our vision to support growth and development within the on-chain future, right? The on-chain world, and that's really where we're spending a lot of our time now. Um, so yeah, I actually have to be pretty proud and excited about the future for OKX. I'm somehow I found myself
Hmm.
in a really fun position and time in this space. And we're expanding globally with our exchange, and we're seeing growth for our wallet globally as well. And we continue to just introduce new and exciting features and do a lot
Hmm.
of. So definitely check out OKX, OKX.com, or OKX.com/web3 to access the wallet.
That's amazing. Yeah, I agree with you. You guys are perfectly positioned for this huge adoption with on-chain self-custody assets and just the Bitcoin ecosystem. I just can't believe we're living through this time. It kind of seems surreal to believe like we got in this early, and that's the excitement that I wish we had, 2 cycles ago, right? Before everything started blossoming, especially as of recently. But Matthew, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been such an informative interview, and I feel that everybody out there that's listening to this is just they know more than beginning of this interview. So
That's great.
again, thank you so much. And hopefully maybe a year from now we'll do another interview and we'll look back on what happened in 2025 if you're down
Awesome.
for that.
Of course, of course. Thank you for having me, Vincent. And I appreciate your time and enjoyed my time here. And okay, we'll put it on the books next year, this time. Let's do it
Let's
again.
let's do it. Thanks, Matthew. Thank you.